What's up, everybody? My name's Diego Call from punchdrunksports.com, and this is a new segment I'm going to be doing every week, maybe twice a week, depending on how many games there are. It's just going to be a bit of a summary and a recap of some of the main stories or main games that happened over the week of football. And so this week I'm going to cover Leicester City, Arsenal versus Chelsea, and Manchester United's situation. So let's go ahead and start off with Leicester, who won 3-0 against Stoke City in a game that I personally expected to be pretty close. But in typical Stoke City fashion, the game was completely one-sided, and Stoke went from being a really good team to being absolute garbage, which happens every time, which is why they're the least recommendable team to put money on if you're going to be betting on something. Leicester, at the beginning of the season, we're one of those teams that everybody expected to finish 19th, 20th, whatever, somewhere in the relegation zone. And by the time November came, I had no idea that they would even be able to come close to surviving until January, let alone the end of January, top of the league. I mean, we're talking about a team that, aside from the first 11 players that they have, on their typical 11 starters, really have no one that's at a top level, which is why it's absolutely incredible that they've even gotten this far. And whether they win the title or not, which I seriously doubt, at this point I'll say they'll definitely finish top 4, but I would say probably 4th is more likely where they're going to finish. No matter what happens, they've had an amazing campaign. They've had a crazy season, and no one can take that away from them, no matter what. The second story I'm going to cover is Chelsea versus Arsenal, which happened at the Emirates Stadium in London. This was a very important game for both teams. On Arsenal's side, it was a game that they absolutely had to win because Leicester got 3 points, City dropped points, United also dropped points, and Spurs won. So no matter what, they needed to get the 3 points to be able to stay close to Leicester, but most importantly, move ahead of City, who dropped points. So it was a really, really big chance for Arsenal to put a little bit of a gap between them and their main title rivals. The game against Chelsea started off very high-paced. Neither team was pressing too hard, so they were both studying each other. And they were pretty much even up until around 15 minutes when Mertesacker went in for a very dumb tackle. He actually went into the tackle looking away from the man he was tackling, who was Diego Costa, who was quick, he's powerful. He's one of those guys that can get in your head and get you to get a red card, which happened actually earlier in the season in the first game against Arsenal. So Mertesacker went in like an idiot, took out Diego Costa, got red carded when actually he probably should have just not even tried to tackle because Koscielny had plenty of time, potentially plenty of time to get to Diego Costa, and if not get a tackle in, at least put pressure on him. And obviously, when you have a keeper like Petr Cech, there's always a chance of him making a great save and saving you. So really, he should have just taken on the chin, let Diego Costa go by, and hope that either Koscielny or Petr Cech could get the stop, instead of getting a red card and pretty much screwing over his team. In order to cover the hole that Mertesacker left, Wenger had no choice but to sub out a striker. So he took out Giroud, who was pretty much their most prolific striker of the year, and they had to put in Gabriel Paulista. Now, why he didn't take out Walcott, who is a much less consistent goal scorer, he's not all that great when it comes to playing with the team in general. I mean, he's good on the break, but Chelsea is a team who's generally good and solid against protecting themselves from the break. So I figured that a guy like Giroud, who has, he has some pace, but he's very strong and he's great in the air. So I thought that was probably a better idea to leave in there to combat, John Terry, Branislav Ivanovic, guys like that, Nemanja Matic. Instead, he took out Giroud, and that pretty much just admitted to Chelsea that they were just going to counterattack. And that made them pretty one-dimensional, which means that Chelsea had a pretty easy time at bossing the game. 5 minutes after the red card, a great cross in from the right from Branislav Ivanovic. Found Diego Costa in the middle. Easy goal, 1-0. Arsenal were in deep trouble. The game pretty much went for the rest of the first half with Chelsea dominating. Cesc Fabregas was absolutely destroying Arsenal's midfield. Arsenal didn't really produce much of anything moving forward. And Mesut Ozil, who was their main man, I honestly couldn't even count more than 3 or 4 touches on the ball in the entire first half. He was completely invisible. He was like a ghost. Right before the end of the half, a great ball came in over the shoulder, I think from the right side, from maybe Joe Campbell. It came right down to Mattia Flamini. All he had to do was tap it in. He had plenty of time. There was nobody on him. He was onside. What does he do? He tries a flying scissor kick with the outside of his foot and sends it completely wide, away over the goal. It was just, I think, honestly, if any other Arsenal player had gotten that chance, I'm pretty sure they probably would have finished it. Anyone with a bit more class and a bit more technique. But it fell to the very wrong person. It was the perfect ball for the wrong person. So, Arsenal had an amazing chance right there to finish it, to take a go back. So the second half started more of the same. Chelsea were pretty much dominating, the offensive flow. Sure, Arsenal maybe had a bit more of the ball, but they weren't really doing anything with it until around the 56th minute. Alexis Sanchez made his return from injury. He replaced Joel Campbell, who didn't have a great game, and you can immediately see the difference. Arsenal's players were much more motivated, had much more, confidence in the way they were playing. They knew that Alexis Sanchez is a guy who has power, he has pace, he's explosive. He's got everything that you need to make a defense, even a great defense, like experienced players like John Terry, Ivanovic, a great defensive midfielder like Matic, Azpilicueta was an excellent defender. All those players know that when Alexis Sanchez is on the pitch, you're always in danger of conceding a goal. So you can never be all that comfortable, and you can never play comfortably. So you could tell that really did motivate and light a fire under Arsenal. However, they didn't really get any clear-cut chances, especially since Ozil was completely eliminated from the game. Walcott was pretty much non-existent. So there really wasn't much he could do. He had Ramsey, who had a few shots. He had, other than that, there was really no play. Monreal, I think, had a good cross in, maybe he had a shot on goal. But there wasn't much to Arsenal's, attacking play. In the final third, they looked dangerous all around, but they just couldn't get that last ball. Walcott had a couple of chances, but he was offsides. I think that Giroud probably would have been able to time his runs better because he's a bit better at that, in my opinion. Walcott's just a bit too anxious at times. He always finds himself just a little too far out over the shoulder of the defenders, and that was their downfall. Now, in the last 10 to 15 minutes, Arsenal threw everything forward, and Diego Costa got hurt. Now, as soon as Diego Costa came in, had to go off due to injury, you could definitely see a difference in Chelsea. They were more anxious because whenever you have Diego Costa on the pitch, you have a guy who will stop the ball, he'll stop play, he'll let his teammates move forward, distribute it to him, and he'll make a run. So you have a guy that can pretty much do anything. He's quick, he's powerful, he's smart. As soon as they lost him, there was a bit less tranquility among the players. And Arsenal sort of started to take control of the game. They had a few chances, but once again, nothing too major. They had, I think, a triple chance, but Chelsea's defense managed to stay solid and didn't concede. And as it moved towards the end, so around the last 8 to 5 minutes, Arsenal pretty much pushed everyone forward, which meant Eden Hazard, who had also come back from injury later in that half, and Willian, who's the right winger, who's extremely quick. All these players, these quick players that Chelsea have, Ramirez as well, had the opportunity to go behind the Arsenal defense and take control of that. They had 4 or 5 chances that I counted where they really should have scored and killed off the game, but they just lacked that cold killer instinct in the final third that would allow them to completely kill off Arsenal and end up, being able to play the last few minutes in peace, basically. So, overall, the final whistle came. It was a great game, really back and forth, really, really quick play, really fun, lots of shots. Mertesacker's red card was completely, it may not have even been a red card, but at the end of the day, he screwed up and you have to take on the chin. Man of the match was absolutely Diego Costa. He had a great game. He bossed the Arsenal defense. He did everything he could. He got a goal. He got his opponent red carded. What more can you ask for? Shout out to Cesc Fabregas, who went into a difficult atmosphere against a former club, put in an excellent performance. He absolutely dominated midfield. And really, if it wasn't for Diego Costa, he would have been man of the match. Meanwhile, on Arsenal, Mesut Ozil did absolutely nothing. He looked invisible. He pretty much wasn't even there. He probably got 10, 15 touches all game, which is a disgrace for someone who is paid that much, first of all, but someone who the team really needs to look to when they're struggling. He's one of those players that has to be able to carry the team even when they're not necessarily performing at their best. And for someone like him to have so many assists this season and to not show up like he's done so many times in a big game just shows why he'll never really be, among those great players, those elite players who are fighting every year for the Ballon d'Or to be named as the greatest player on earth. That's just, in my opinion, why he'll never really compete for any major personal prizes. Finally, we're going to talk about Manchester United versus Southampton. Thankfully, I couldn't see the game. I couldn't watch the game live, but I did watch the highlights after the end. I watched the synthesis. And honestly, that looked like probably the worst game I have ever seen. The worst performance from both teams. United, who have spent in excess of £200 million since Louis van Gaal took over as manager, couldn't muster a single shot on goal until around the 92nd minute. I mean, just think about that. Not a single strike on goal. How terrible is that? I just don't see how this can keep going. I don't think the board are the right people to leave this in the hands of. And I just think Louis van Gaal, he has to be getting, he has to be on at this point. I don't know why he's still there. He's not, I just don't see the team improving in any way under him. I think he's gone as far as he can. He bought the wrong players. He bought youth instead of buying players for the now. He bought Depay, who has great potential to be great later on. He bought Martial, who's 19. I mean, come on. He has 3 or 4 years before he'll even be coming close to his prime. Sure, these are players that in the future could be great players, but right now, they're just young guys who still have to make a name for themselves, especially moving into a difficult league that they're not used to. It's completely different playing in France or playing in Holland than playing in the Barclays Premier League. So you can't really expect them to take you to that next level. He bought Schneiderlin, which I love Schneiderlin. I think he's an excellent signing. They bought Schweinsteiger, excellent signing. But they're missing someone creative behind offense, behind the attack. I think until they get that, and until they get another excellent defender, center back to pair with Chris Smalling, maybe even let Shaw's out until the end of the season. I like Shaw a lot. I think there's 3 or 4 big signings they need to make. They need to sign another striker to pair up with Martial in the future and with Rain Rooney now. Maybe even a right winger. There's a lot of missing pieces in this team. And I don't think Van Gaal is the right person to do. He hasn't shown that he deserves to be left at the helm of the team to make these big signings, to spend that kind of money. So in my opinion, they should wait. Well, maybe not wait. Either fire him now, maybe get a guy like Mourinho, or hope for the best that Van Gaal can do something and take us to the end of the season. But that's not what I would do. But at the end of the day, I don't think this United side right now are going to be qualifying for Champions League. And if you don't qualify for Champions League, you can't get the best players, you can't get the best managers. So right now, I'm not too optimistic about how things are going to go. Well, that's the end of the first vlog. I'm sure it was pretty rough, but it obviously, it's the first time I've ever done it, so things will get better. And that's about it. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, Diego_call. You can find my name on punchdrunksports.com, and that's pretty much, if you want to find me on Facebook, same thing, Diego Call. That's about it. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon on the next vlog.